Welcome to this video lecture on plant nursery. This is M.Santosh Kumari, lecturer in botany, Government College for Women, Autonomous, Guntur. Today in this video lecture, you are going to know about the different types of plant nurseries. The learning objectives of this topic are to know about the different types of nurseries, classify the nurseries on the basis of duration, plants produced, and structures used. Understand the features of different plant nurseries, appreciate the advantages, and identify the disadvantages of different types of plant nurseries. Before knowing about the different types of plant nurseries, let us recollect what is a plant nursery. Plant nursery is a place designed to produce, grow and sell the plants. Plant nurseries involve all the tasks from the emergence of young plants to transplantation. Plant nurseries are an important source of planting material. So, there are different types of nurseries catering the needs according to the requirement. Nurseries are mainly classified on the basis of duration, plant produced, and structures used. Let us discuss them in detail. On the basis of duration, nurseries are classified into two types. They are temporary nursery and permanent nursery. Temporary nursery. This type of nurseries are established only for a short duration. So, they are usually established to fulfill the seasonal requirements or to fulfill a targeted project. So, in some seasons, sometimes some plants are required in large quantities. So, this type of nurseries fulfill those requirements and they are also established to meet the requirements of a targeted project. For supplying the planting material required for that project, this type of nurseries are established. Temporary nurseries are usually small in size and they are set up for a short period after which they are abandoned, or sometimes they are also made a part of the main field. So these temporary nurseries are not continually seen. We can see them only for a short duration. So these temporary nurseries are sometimes called as flying nurseries. Temporary nurseries are used for raising seedlings of some cereal crops like paddy, vegetables, and also for some flower crops. These temporary nurseries are found near the main planting area. They are usually established very near to the main plantation area. So these are very small in size and set up for a short duration. After that, they are abandoned. These nurseries are found near to the main plantation area. Some of the features of this temporary nursery are they are constructed for a short period and they are small in size. Intensive manuring and fertilizers are not required as these temporary nurseries are constructed very near to the main plantation area and are also they are rich in humus. These temporary nurseries are located near the plantation site. So the distance between the nursery and the actual plantation area will be very less. So no major transportation is required and the cost will be very less if at all transportation is required. Since they are very near to the main plantation area. And also special supervision is not required in the maintenance of these temporary nurseries. However, security aspects must be taken care of these temporary nurseries as no permanent protected structures are present around the plants. Some of the advantages of these temporary nurseries are: first one is transportation is not required. Since these temporary nurseries are very close to the main plantation area, transportation is not at all required. If required, it will be very less only as they are nearby the plantation area. Mortality or injury to the saplings is minimum. Since they are very nearby to the main plantation area, the injury to the saplings will be very minimum. The injury during lifting and shifting of these plants for transplantation will be very less. It will be very negligible. Investment is less as no permanent structures are to be constructed for these temporary nurseries. Investment is very less. These temporary nurseries also have some disadvantages. There are one is regarding the irrigation facility. So basic facilities like irrigation may not be adequate as there are no permanent arrangements for irrigation. So some extra care must be taken for irrigating the plants. Next one is security problem. As there are no protected structures around the plants, security is a major problem for these temporary nurseries. Next, permanent nurseries. These permanent nurseries are usually larger than the temporary nurseries. They are established for permanent use to produce saplings continuously throughout the year. They are well designed with adequate facilities. Some of the features of permanent nursery are: cultural operations are carried out throughout the year. So, since they are established permanently, they produce saplings continuously throughout the year. So, cultural operations will be continuously carried out in these permanent nurseries. Permanent nursery has large area and is well connected by the road. It has intensive management and supervision. The high initial cost in the establishment is required for the permanent nursery. Since permanent structures are to be constructed for these nurseries, it requires a high initial investment. It also has permanent structures for irrigation, electricity and transportation. So, they will have all the required components like office room, storeroom, mother block, nursery beds, manure, packing yards, etc. And many of them will have well established permanent protective structures also for the protection of these plants. Irrigation and electricity facilities are well maintained in these permanent nurseries. Some of the advantages of these permanent nurseries are wide range of planting materials availability. So, permanent nurseries, since they are having large area and are continuously engaged in the production of plants and growing of them, these maintain large varieties of planting materials. Saplings are better managed due to more supervision and intensive care in these permanent nurseries. Permanent nurseries are a source for continuous supply of planting material for the growers. Since the activities will be continuously carried out throughout the year, the planting material will also be available for the growers continuously. Next, high profits. So, these permanent nurseries assure high profits. Permanent nurseries also have some disadvantages. They are the initial investment cost is high. So, for establishment of the permanent structures, some high initial investment is required for these permanent nurseries. So, it is a drawback. Transportation cost is more. Since these permanent nurseries are far away from the main plantation area, farmers require more transportation cost. Such a nursery needs intensive labor management. Since the cultural operations are carried out throughout the year in the permanent nursery, it requires skilled labor and also it requires better supervision for the plants. For the better supervision, it requires more labor and management. And moreover, these permanent nurseries must be backed by a large market for the sale of plants and seedlings. As these permanent nurseries produce plants in large quantity, there must be a large market for the sale of these plants. It requires skilled human resource round the year. So, skilled labor is a major problem for the permanent nurseries. On the basis of plants produced, nurseries are classified into different types. They are ornamental nursery, vegetable nursery, fruit nursery, forest nursery, medicinal plants nursery, and some miscellaneous nurseries also. Ornamental nursery. In this nursery, planting materials of ornamental plants are raised and are also conserved for further use. These nurseries also have mother block consisting of propagative materials like rootstock, scion, bulbs, tubers, cuttings of creepers and climbers. So it consists of propagative materials also. Seedlings and saplings of cut flowers, seasonal flowers, indoor, outdoor potted plants, bonsai and exotic plants are also managed with intense care in these ornamental nurseries. Since exotic plants cannot withstand all types of environmental conditions, here in these ornamental nurseries, these plants are provided better care and management in the protected structures. Wide range of varieties of ornamentals like gerbera, dianthus, petunia, salvia, rose, chrysanthemum, coleus, ester, etc. and also landscaping material are made available in these ornamental nurseries. They are the source for the floriculture industry. Fruit plant nursery. Seedlings and cuttings of rootstocks, budded plants, grafts, layers, and cuttings of fruit trees such as mango, lychee, pear, guava, sapota, etc. are raised and conserved in these fruit plant nursery. Next, vegetable nursery. Planting material like seedlings of vegetables, rooted cuttings of asparagus and sweet potato, and rhizomes like ginger, tubers like potato, and bulbs like onion and garlic are raised and conserved in these vegetable nurseries. Next, forest nursery. The seedlings of forest trees, which are required for social forestry, eco parks, avenue trees, for roads, highways, etc., are also propagated here in these forest nursery. Saplings of different forest plant species like gulmohar, bahinia, cassia, tamarind, amla, neem, etc. are commonly grown in these forest nurseries. Usually, these forest nurseries are maintained by the forest department or by some tribal communities also. Medicinal plants nursery. The saplings of rare medicinal and aromatic herbs with great economic value are grown in these nurseries. These also cater the needs of Ayurvedic pharmacies and herbal healers. Next, miscellaneous nurseries. Miscellaneous nurseries cater the needs of industries involved in plant-based products like juice, jams, jellies, pulp, paper, herbal cosmetics, nutraceuticals, etc. So these are some of the nurseries which are classified based on the plants produced in those nurseries. Next, on the basis of structures used, nurseries are classified into two types. They are open field nursery, which do not have any permanent structures, and high-tech nursery, which consists of special protected structures like thatched roof, shade net, greenhouse, polytunnel, etc. Open field nursery. This type of nursery is established generally in open areas without any permanent structure. Usually, raised flat or sunken seedbeds are prepared in these open field nurseries. These nurseries are vulnerable to natural environmental conditions. Since they are present in open field, they are not covered by any protected structures. They are vulnerable to natural environmental conditions. Next, high-tech nursery. So this type of nursery is established under protected structures. The protected structures in which the nursery can be successfully raised are different types. They are thatched roof, shade net, greenhouse or polyhouse and polytunnel. These are some of the protected structures which we can see in a high-tech nursery. So depending upon the type of protected structures, these are again of different types. Thatched roof. In this, a thatched roof is constructed over the nursery beds. It protects the seedlings from damage caused by extreme wind, rain, heat, etc. So, in order to protect the seedlings in the nursery beds, thatched roofs are constructed over them. Next, shade net. In these plantlets are raised under shade net houses. So here the plantlets are raised under the shade net houses in order to provide them different ranges of shade as required by them. So they provide different amount of shade to plants based on their requirements. Shade nets of different colors and mesh sizes are now available and they are used as covering material for these shade nets. Greenhouse or polyhouse. It is a framed structure covered by polyfilm or shade net. So, the plants that grow in this polyhouse are provided partially or completely modified environment. So if we want to provide controlled environmental conditions to plants, we have to grow them in greenhouse or polyhouse. These structures are ventilated and they may have temperature and humidity controlling devices also. The seedlings are raised inside the polyhouse or greenhouse on raised beds, or sometimes they are also grown in plug trays. These greenhouse or polyhouses are used for hardening of exotic and tissue culture plants also. That means these are used to acclimatize the plants which are introduced from remote areas, that is the exotic plants can be acclimatized using these greenhouses. And also tissue culture produced plants, they require hardening process. For that also these greenhouse or polyhouse can be used. So first, these tissue culture plants or exotic plants are grown in these greenhouses or polyhouses. After acclimatization, they are transplanted into the normal field. So this is a polyhouse where controlled environmental conditions are provided for the plants. Next, polytunnel. Polytunnel is a small tunnel-like structure covered with plastic sheet or film. It is a miniature structure which produces greenhouse-like effect for the plants. Besides not being so expensive, it is easy to construct and again dismantle these polytunnels. Polytunnel helps to retain the heat and humidity required for the plants. So some plants require heat and humidity for growing. So such type of plants can be grown in polytunnels. The seedlings are protected from cold, wind, storm, rain and frost also in these polytunnels. Due to the modified conditions, there is better germination for the seeds in these polytunnel, and the plant growth will be also better than the open environment. So polytunnels are used for providing modified environmental conditions. Polytunnels are used for off-season growing of fruits, flowers and vegetables also. So off-season plants can be grown in these polytunnels which provide the modified environmental conditions for the better growing of these off-season plants. These are polytunnels which provide modified environmental conditions for the plants. So these are easy to construct and then easy to dismantle also. So these are different types of nurseries which are classified based on the duration, types of plants produced and the types of protective structures used. Summary. Now let us recollect what you have learnt. Nurseries are classified on the basis of duration, plants produced and structures used. On the basis of duration, nurseries are classified into two types. They are temporary nursery and permanent nursery. On the basis of plants produced, nurseries are classified into ornamental nursery, vegetable nursery, fruit nursery, forest nursery, medicinal plants nursery and miscellaneous nurseries. On the basis of structures used, there are two types of nurseries. One is open field nursery, which does not have any permanent protective structures. Here the plants are grown in the open field and they are prone to the environmental conditions. Next is the high-tech nursery. High-tech nursery has many protective structures. Some of them are thatched roof, shade net, greenhouse or polyhouse, and polytunnel. So these are some of the protective structures that are seen in high-tech nurseries. These protective structures provide modified environmental conditions for the plants so that they can grow well. They can be provided better environmental conditions. So these protective structures help for the growing of off-season plants also, and also they help to provide the required environmental conditions for the plant so that they can grow well. So these are some of the important aspects of the different types of nurseries. We have discussed about the different types of plant nurseries, their features, their advantages and disadvantages. Hope you have understood. Happy learning.